coaches across the country used the Coach Pad this past season to be more efficient with their scout card prep on the weekends as well as when out on the practice field working with their scout teams. Whether you're a coach using a computer program to create cards or drawing them by hand, the Coach Pad is for you. Never printing paper or stuffing a binder, clearly seeing scout cards outdoors in the bright sun, and using the Coach Pad on game days, syncing diagrams from the press box to the sideline were some of the features coaches enjoyed this season. This offseason, get your Coach Pad at thecoachpad.com to get your program ready for next season. Thecoachpad.com.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have an old friend of the channel. He is the new head football coach at Lemon Bay High School down there in the great sunny state of Florida, as you can see by his nice increased tan since the last time he's been on. Coach Jason Minton. Coach, how you doing?
Awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on, and appreciate what you've done for coaches all these years, man. Nick, you were kind of one of the first guys in this field that was like leading the podcast world, and lots of people followed, but I think all the material you put out is top notch, and it's great for our profession. It's great for people, so I appreciate you for all that.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. I appreciate the kind words. Like I said, I mean, you were on in the early days, and like I said, we've known each other almost 10 years, I would say, or close to. I think 2016-ish. I could be wrong, but
I think I was one of the first people on with you. Yeah. And we must not have screwed it up too bad back then, huh?
No, I mean, I think both times we talked for over an hour on both of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't just like football stuff; it was non-football stuff too. And like I said, we've known each other 10 years, so that kind of helps. Like it just, and we knew each other prior. Like, I mean, I say it all the time. Like if you look at my early 15 to 20 people on here, I'd say probably 12 of them I knew at least prior to like doing all this. And so, like I said, anytime I can get people I enjoy and they're friends, and but again, it's been a while since you've been on, but our lives have been busy. Like, I mean, like you've been a successful high school coach in Michigan, moved to Florida. I've taken head coaching jobs and continue to do this. So it's been busy, but like, I mean, let's start with the simple question. How'd you end up in Florida? Let's
So as a young coach, I've got 22 years of experience as head coach. This will be my 22nd season as head coach. And early in my career, I recognized the fact that I would be able to take an early retirement from Michigan. And the way that Michigan's retirement system set up is that you work 30 years. You have to be a minimum of 46 years of age, and you can start collecting your pension with 3% raise after retirement. And I had bought 5 years, and when I was in college, I coached wrestling and track while I was playing football. So I had accumulated some years there. So I knew that the day I turned 46, I could retire and collect my pension. And in my mind, there's high schools all over America. So if your vocation is being a high school football coach, you can do that in lots of places. And we had kind of pinholed Northwest Ohio, the Hilton Head area, and down here towards Inglewood. There's 3 locations that were possible locations for us to retire to or work to, but nothing's guaranteed. It's not a matter of just, I want to go be a head coach and you go get a job, right? It has to be the right fit, and it has to be the right administration. It has to be, there are so many variables that go in. So this fall we had a very successful season, and the season ended. And to be real frank, I'd planned on going back again next year. I thought that I would, I had a 4-year contract at John Glenn, and I was going to go back next year, and the district hit significant financial woes. And in December, they came to me and asked for me to renegotiate my contract and cut my pay and do some different things that way. And I just told them that, I can retire in March. I'll look around and see where things are going. So right now they're fighting through a $26 million deficit, and it timed up and such that I could retire at that point anyhow. So, we started looking around, and Lemon Bay, where my dad has a place came open. I applied. It was a match immediately. The culture of the school, the administration, the principal, the athletic director, the assistant athletic director, and I all hit it off right away. And we've moved forward. So I'm excited to be here.
I mean, kind of with that, like again, you've posted some pictures that have made me jealous. The nice weather, the getting some spring ball in. Like from a transition standpoint, like obviously every state's got their own little quirky rules, changes, and restrictions and non-restrictions. And I mean, I'm not saying we can do pretty much whatever we want now in Ohio, but as of a couple of weeks ago, we borderline can because of lawsuits and other things. And like kind of, I mean, how's the transition been? What big differences have you kind of noticed between Michigan and Florida? I mean, obviously football's part of it, but kind of how's that been, and kind of what have you kind of noticed in the past month and change?
So I'm a big believer in routine. I'm a big believer in habit, and I'm a big believer in rhythm. Like those are three things that I seek to have in my own life all the time. Like I want to have a consistent routine, which builds successful habits, which in turn gives you a rhythm that gives you comfort and things you look forward to, right? Like that's how I exist. That's how I live. Coming here, I feel like I'm a 22-year-old taking my first head coaching job at Addison High School. It's gone full circle back to those moments because I don't know the rules and I don't know the expectations and I don't know the culture and I don't know how kids are expecting their experience to be. So when you're first starting in this whole thing, like you're figuring it out, and there's an enthusiasm that comes from that, but there's also challenges that come from that. And now here as a 46-year-old, I guess, I feel like, I'm kind of back. I've gone full circle back in learning that. With that said, I'm grayer, I'm older, and I'm wiser, and I'm a little slower to react on a lot of things. And I have processes I'm building, and I'm going about things differently than when I was a 22-year-old passionate punk. So, it's been fun. It's been exciting. Obviously Florida's got a great football culture. They have football, but at the same time, you're still working with 14 to 18-year-olds in balancing what is good and right and what's going to help them grow versus what, too much of a good thing is still too much. And I love it. My correlation is always the buffet, right? Like there's all kinds of good food on the buffet, but if you eat all of it, you just feel sick. So it's kind of the same deal down here in Florida. Like you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of opportunity to prepare your teams and a lot of opportunities of different things you can do. But if you do too much of it, you're going to just end up bad still. So it's figuring out that balance. And to be blunt, I'm not sure I've figured it out yet, but we will. And we're going to keep working until we build a great thing here at Lemon Bay.
Good. Well, like I said, it's always, again, kind of like you point out, it's always interesting to figure out the rules and changes, and everything changes every year. And like I said, it's like speaking of that, like and I know you've posted here or there on Twitter on who you're hiring and getting people hired, but how has that process been? Because obviously, like when you're in a state or an area, or even when you take your first job, you probably know people around. Like, okay, I want to reach out to XYZ. I want to talk to so-and-so and try to get them to come here and if you switch head coaching jobs, you're bringing somebody with you, trying to, if possible. But when you go halfway across the country, you don't necessarily always have those luxuries of I'm going to bring so-and-so with me. How has that process been? How have you kind of treated that from a perspective? Like if for coaches switching maybe states as head coaches, what kind of would you recommend about that process as you've kind of been able to go through it?
So the recommendation is give everybody a shot. Like previous staff, whether they had great success, in which Lemon Bay had a really good coaching staff. They did some really good things prior to our staff coming here. Or it'd been a terrible experience, which either way, you give everybody a shot. You give everybody an opportunity. So my process was I called everybody who was on staff in any realm, like the volunteer assistant water boy I called to meet with about coaching football. And I met with all of them. I had half-hour meetings with I think I had 12 time slots the first night I was down there. It was before I even met the team. I met with all these guys. And, I talked with them, and everyone was given an opportunity. Literally every single one of those guys was like, hey, I was like, hey, I'd like you to be on staff. Now, all of them, I was like, I don't know where I'm going to place you. I don't know what I'm going to have you coach, but I'd like you to be on staff, and we'll figure that out as we go. In this situation, the staff had been here for a long time, and a lot of them were at a spot where they were looking to retire. They weren't looking to. They were done coaching, and the previous head coach had done a great job. Don Southwell is his name. He's a great guy. I'm hopeful that I can get him back on staff at some point. He's a guy that I'm not sure is done coaching, but he was done for right now and needed to get out for a bit. So I'm hopeful I can get him back. But most of his staff were guys that had been coaching for 25, 30 years. And we're really looking for a break. They weren't looking to, jump on something new. So then we started reaching out to anybody that had an interest. Two of my guys, Mike Zufall and Keith Washington, coming from other states, both had applied for the head position when I got it. And, both of those guys, when they applied for that, had also reached out and said, hey, we would like to live in the area. So if I'm not the right choice as the head coach, please let your head coach know. So seeing that information, I called them both, and we hit it off, and they're great guys. Keith is coming from Utah, and Mike's coming from New Mexico. They're both moving down here. And so they're going to be huge assets to get our program off the ground. We retained two guys from the previous staff, and then we picked up some younger guys that were in the area that played here. Some of them had been coaching, in other area schools. Some had not, but and we're bringing those guys in and trying to get them coached up and how we're going to play football here.
I've heard, Coach. Like I said, that's always I think that is, there's a lot of overwhelming things when you're switching jobs, but hiring a staff is, I think as well as I do, is probably one of the most important decisions you'll make, because one bad egg there can ruin so much.
Yeah, I'm of the philosophy of I'm going to give everyone a shot, and then if I bring in the wrong guy, I'm going to fire you. And I don't like to fire people. I haven't fired many, but I had a guy, John Glenn, I had to get rid of. He was a cancer. He's not a good person. He shouldn't be working with kids, and we had to get rid of him. And he had done, when you get guys like that, they do things really, really quickly that is, I guess, a cause to remove, right? Yeah. Like when you got guys that aren't good people, they're going to give you cause to get rid of them. So I've always been of the philosophy of, okay, our job is to get a group of men that can get along, that are going to have a common vision, and we're like, our vision is teach grit, build community. That's our vision. That's what we're going to do. That's who we are. And if somebody can't buy into that, I'm going to come with that hard and fast from day one. So if you can't buy into that, you're probably going to opt out of coaching. But if you do buy into that, or you want to give it a try, I want you to be a part of this. And then at some point, if you're not all in, you're going to show me cause. And then I'm going to have to get rid of you. And I don't mind doing that. It's a hard conversation, but the reality is that, you're holding the kids back at that point, and we have to make that type of change and transition. And then it's a matter of, okay, let's go, accumulate talent. What other guys are around here, or that we can get hired on teaching staff that bring some personality or some attribute that can help us. So, Mike and Keith, bringing them up. Mike's very different than me. He's a very creative guy. He's very engaging. He's very friendly. He's going to be a huge asset to us because of that. Keith is a guy who played at Camden, played at Utah State, loves sports, loves kids. He's going to bring us attributes as well that I don't have. So, having people that are different than yourself is important. It's a matter of putting them in positions that they can utilize the skills and talents that they have as people, so that you can have the greatest outcome as a group.
Yeah. Now with that, part of my curiosity is, when we first met, you were a hardcore double wing guy. You were, and you'd mostly been under center, but you played with some shotgun stuff here and there. And You've kind of made a transition since that, and to more of from my understanding and looking at pictures and talking to people, to more of a true T. Um, Before like we get to how that's progressing there, what was that switch like, and why did you make that switch while you were back in Florida? Not Florida.
In Michigan, yeah. So I made the switch basically to simplify things. Our double wing package had expanded so much over years that it had become I still love the double wing stuff. It's a great package of football, and there's no magic answer in defending it. But we had gotten so far from kind of the root of what the system is to make the package work that it got quite sophisticated. And when I went to John Glenn, frankly, it was more than we could handle. So we got into the T, and that helped us immediately because it was less moving parts. There were less things. With that said, it also created, the T with the Michigan Power T. And it's not just the T; it's the Michigan Power T. With the trapping game, the off tackle game, the keep game, defensively, you almost have to defend it like the option, where it's very assignment disciplined football. And it's a equalizer system in my mind, and it's a system that allows you to still play physical football and still get guys to develop the core values that we're looking that fit within our vision of building community and being selfless, and then teaching grit, consistency, and hard work, and all those things, all those attributes. So it fits in all that, but at the same time, it's a way to play this same type of football with great pressure on the defense without maybe creating as many layers as we needed to in our double wing package. So that's how we got to it. In a perfect world, I'll have elements of both. I don't know if I'll get to that perfect world ever, but that's, we'll see how time takes us.
Yeah. And is that where you are starting down there? Like I said, I've seen some pictures, but again, pictures can be deceptive. I'll phrase it that way. And again, like I don't need the whole shebang, but like like I said, the install, and where are you starting with the Michigan Power T? Are you testing a variety of things to see what?
Yeah, no, that's what we're running. We're running Michigan Power T, and again, I think it's what's best for our kids. I think it gives our kids the best chance to win. So that's why we're doing it. And, it's a great system. It's hard to run. It is the ultimate pursuit of mastery. Irv Sigler, who's a great Power T coach in Michigan for years and years, his phrase that I love that he used all the time was offense is the master, the pursuit of mastery, and defense is the mastery of pursuit. He'd say that all the time, and I absolutely love that. I think that's regardless of system, like offensively, you are in the pursuit of mastering skills to make yourself tough to defend. And this offense is the one that the pursuit of mastery has a greater impact on result versus anything else. And so it's been good, and the deception's awesome out of it. I mean, anybody who knows the offense knows how great the deception in Michigan Power T is. It's a beautiful thing, and it still has the same, you got a great play action game out of it. You got a great off tackle game. You got a great sweep game. You got misdirection and counter game. It's a fantastic package that has all the elements that you need to be successful. And it's a matter of us executing, pursuing that mastery of the execution of it. And if we get there, we're going to win a lot of games.
Now, I mean, with your full staff not being there yet, and I honestly don't know what Lemon Bay ran before you were there, but how was that transition to that offense been?
Yeah.
And how, because you're not only teaching kids, but you're teaching your staff, because it's not like, again, you brought a bunch of guys with you, but what is that whole install process, and is there any hiccups you've seen that you didn't necessarily deal with when you were in Michigan? Like, again, because it's a different culture, different world. It's a whole different, how has the process of teaching your stuff been down there?
That's a loaded question, isn't it? Huh? Number one, when I got hired at Lemon Bay, before I met with the kids, I walked into the locker room, and on the wall it said TTTIF. And I asked the AD, what is that? TTTIF, what does that mean? He said, oh, it's nothing you have to use. It's a slogan they've used through years, and it stands for the toughest team in Florida. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, we're using that. Like, we think we're the toughest team in Florida. I like it. We're using it, right? So I walk out of the locker room and have my first team meeting, and I started with TTT, and all the kids yelled IF. It was great. It was awesome. Since I've gotten here, the thing that I continue to stress with our kids is that can't be our slogan. It has to be our culture. And the difference between a slogan and culture is slogan is what you say, culture is who you are.
Yep.
And it has to be who we are. Like, we have to be TTIF. And that was before me. That was, DJ Ogilvy, who was an Ohio coach, is the guy who started that slogan here. And that's who we have to be culturally. And it's my job to get us to that spot culturally, not by saying it 50 times, but by hitting sleds, by doing hard stuff, by making us tough. So I think there was an element that was here before us that's going to help us with that process. With that said, it was a shotgun jet sweep power counter team that we're taking over, who's graduating a massive senior class of 30 kids. The juniors have only been told that they're not as good as the seniors. So we're walking into a situation where the juniors have been told, like, you guys aren't as good as those seniors. You're not as good as that last group. We're going to run our system. We're going to get people excited about it. And it's a great system. And so as soon as we can get to a point where we're executing at a high level, which we're a long way from still, I don't think we're gonna have issues with buy-in, because it's gonna be successful. It's gonna work. And when things work, people enjoy it. Like, I've yet to meet a running back rush for 1,000 yards and tell me he didn't like the offense. I've yet to talk to a 6'4", 240-pound offensive tackle that we play at tight end who doesn't like the offense. I've yet to talk to an offensive center, who loves to drive block, who doesn't like the offense. So, we get in this world where we get critical of these old school offenses based on, 3 or 4 wide receivers, or kids who perceive themselves as wide receivers. Oftentimes they're just skinny kids who can't catch. But sometimes they are true wide receivers. And we get in this world where we're like trying to appease them. And then even if we're in spread systems, which I'm not opposed to, I think they're awesome. I think they're great at football. Those kids aren't the ones that we end up throwing the ball to anyhow. It's the kids that we're playing at halfback and fullback that we end up splitting out. So, in my mind, a good football player is a good football player, and good football players like playing good football. And although the preparation in this system requires a lot of work, that's what we're trying to teach. Like, that's our vision: teach grit, build community. Like, that's what we're trying to do culturally. So it fits into that. And in time, in my experiences in time, it's always been really accepted because it's been successful. So, last year at John Glenn, we scored 30 points a game, and we won 7 games, which was, the previous 7 years they'd won 14. So, we won half that many games in 1 year. So there's going to be a buy-in from that. So, it's just, you gotta weather that a little bit, the front end, because there are people who don't understand it until it works.
Yeah. 100%. No, it's everywhere. That, like, and whether it doesn't matter what system you run. If somebody that wants to complain is going to complain, that's what they do. Like, that's just, you'll have those people in every community, whether you're running 5 wide air raid spread, or your power T, or your single wing, or whatever you want to run.
Yeah. And to example that, just for the coaches out there, is in 2020, COVID year, we couldn't do like a lot of our traditional meshes and stuff in the summer. So we had put a bunch of spread stuff in that summer just because it was kind of like, why not? We're probably not even gonna have a fall. Like, let's go have fun. We can't do a handoff in practice legally, so let's just fling it around here and have fun, right? It's better than sitting in our basements. Like, that's what we were talking about. And so that year we ran a version of the double wing, but it was, I mean, we were in shotgun and we were throwing the ball a lot. And my slot receiver comes to me in like week 9 or 10, like his mom had emailed me or whatever, and he's like, I'm not having fun. I'm just not enjoying the game. And well, the kid had been a wingback his whole career. I mean, he was touching the ball 15, 20 times a game his whole life from the time he was like a 5th grader. And now all of a sudden he's a slot receiver and he's getting 3 touches a game. And he looked like a slot receiver, like he was a long, lean, athletic kid. He's playing baseball at Albany College right now, a very successful athlete, very good. But he wasn't having, he'd been ingrained in our system so long that like being a receiver to him was horrible.
Yeah.
It's just it's not how we think about things, but there's that reality, And then in 22, when we got back to or 21, when we got back to our core stuff after COVID, he was back at wingback. He had a great year and he loved it, and like totally different kid, totally different experience because he was fully engaged in what we were doing. So, just because society tells us that we all have to be in these wide open systems, and they're great, by the way, too. I love, like, spread football is good football. I'm not opposed to it, but it doesn't mean it's best for every kid. It doesn't mean it's best for every program, and it doesn't mean that it's best for our kids. And I said it earlier today when I was talking to Coach Avis, I was like, hey, the minute that we go 5 wide here, I'm ripping those TTTIF signs down. Like we can't be both things.
Yeah.
So we're going to be TTTIF and run the T, and we're going to be successful with it, or we're ripping down those signs and we're going to admit that we're not the toughest team in Florida. I don't see that happening, but that would be that will be our stance. Like, do we want to keep these signs up? Yeah, we want to keep these signs up.
Yeah. It's culture. It is your mindset, is who you are. It is, I mean, you have to find another catchy little abbreviation, which is not always easy. And to be honest, TTIF rolls off the tongue well, and it sounds better.
And I love the fact that it was there before me.
Yeah.
Right. Like I love the fact that I'm assimilating to it versus it's something I'm bringing in. Like the fact that DJ Ogilvy brought that here and brought that mindset here, and Don Southwell build off of that, and I have the opportunity to try to build off of, their legacy. I think that's awesome.
Well, I think that's what the good programs in general do, like long term. Like, I mean, it's the old Nick Saban analogy. He would hire new offensive coordinators, but they'd have to use the same language. Like, we're not scrapping everything. Like, if you want to change what you're calling and like when and how, that's fine. You want to add stuff, fine. But you're going to put it within our terminology. You're going to do, and that it's kind of what you're doing. TTIF is already there. It's something that, and now you're bringing in and molding into what you want to do. And that's, I mean, it obviously fits. Kind of one of my last questions with you is since you are running the T, and again, we've known each other from the double wing days, how is practice different? What does a practice look like? I'm curious because I mean, I know a couple Michigan Power T coaches or just Power T coaches in general, Michigan and non-Michigan, and I've never really asked that question, I don't think. Just kind of what does that look like for you?
Relative to a double wing coach, or just relative to coaching?
Just relative in general, not even just wing, just kind of like my curiosity, like when you're starting down there, like what is that like how are you starting? How are you practicing? Like that's
offensively, like we start every day with fundamentals offensively. So we have 3 blocking drills that we do. One's a 6-point drill, one's a sled drill, but it's on the 2-man crowler. And by the way, I don't care what system you run. If you're not using the 2-man crowler, you're using the wrong sled, in my opinion. And then one drill's in the chutes, in which case we're hitting pads with base blocks, outside drive, inside drive blocks is what we call them. But and we're also doing like 1-step cut stuff. So like backside cutoffs and front side cut blocks. We're working on that versus bags under the chutes as well. So that's every practice. Pretty much we start with that. And that ends up being a 10-minute drill. Like once we get good at it, the first day it's a half hour, it takes a while. And then we go, so I either emphasize alley plays and sweep plays, or trap and pass on every day. So like I alternate that back and forth. So one day I'm going to do alley sweep. The next day I'm going to do trap and pass. If I'm doing alley and sweep, the only time I'm running trap and pass is in team. Every other drill that we're doing is based on is going to be an alley or sweep drill. So like we'll go from our fundamental set to doing like a prim run drill for a sweep game. And then in the prim run, we'll have to do like a double half line. So there's a half line right, half line left in the middle of the field, and we're repping all kinds of different edge looks with the sweep. Drill that we run, the primary alley group drill we run is both guards, the center, full backfield, and then we have a D end and a linebacker and a corner, and we mix the fits. So like, you know, one time the linebacker's coming inside of the D end, the next time the D end's spilling, the next time the D end's square squeezing, and we got to make our pull right along with our kick out block, no matter what picture shows to us when we get to line of scrimmage. So those are our two primary group drills. And then we might do like a power hour. I like to do that in the front end of the practice where it's the 11 offensive guys versus everybody else on the goal line to work on just straight down, kick, hammer, you know, mindset. And we do that for 5 minutes, maybe 5 plays. And then we'll be in a team. You know, that's our practice plan. And then the other day when we go trap pass, we have a trap drill that we do that works both level 1, 2, and 3 assignments. And when we're doing that drill, the other half of the offense is doing group pass on the other part of the field. So that's a good 15-minute set usually. And then we'll do a team pass where we will play without a secondary, and we'll bring all kinds of different blitzes and looks with the rush. And, you know, the Q has to get the ball out, and we got to get in our routes and whatnot. We're going to have open receivers. It's a matter of us protecting against, you know, heavy pressure stuff. So we'll work that in the trap pass day as well. So we just keep alternating that. And I mean, and I'll do stuff like, you know, like when we do our fundamental sets, you know, we'll go in a right-handed stance and do like, you know, cut off to the right. And then the next day we'll go left-handed stance. Like I'll flip it by day on what we're emphasizing. Today I worked with one of our quarterbacks, and we ran power, keep, trap to the right, and counter to the left. And the next time I work with him, I'll flip it and do the other way. I'll go power, trap, keep to the left, and counter to the right. So, you know, a lot of it's that, and then we go.
And like the last question I'll ask you, because I know I think I've asked you variations before, but it's been a couple years. Like for the young head coach or the new head coach, because again, there is turnover every year, everywhere. Like I think we're at like a record low here in Ohio for the past 10 years, but still, like there's still like 80 jobs that switch.
Yep.
What recommendations, words of advice, like to help young coaches? Like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Don't fear getting fired. Probably going to happen at some point. Be your authentic self. Like you can't be somebody else. You'll never be successful trying to be somebody else. Be authentic. Be who you are. I'm a big believer in the 2 up, 2 down model. So I serve 2 people above me, which is my athletic directors. I serve them. My job is to serve them. It's not their job to make me happy and give me stuff. It's my job to serve them. So I'm on their team. And when there's a problem, I'm serving them in that problem. So if I have to do things that I don't necessarily want to do, but it's service to the district, I'm serving those two individuals or multiple individuals that are 2 up. And then I also serve 2 down, which is my assistant coaches and my players. I owe my assistant coaches and players an authentic relationship for them to know who I am and for me to spend my entire life to help them and what their goals are. So I think, you know, when you're a head coach, you got to look at your role being of service, number one, but it's 2 up, 2 down. You can't keep every superintendent, board member, and community member happy. But you can serve your athletic director and principal. You can know what they need and what their vision is and what they want for their departments and honor it. I run into so many guys they're like, well, my AD does this and he wants me to do this. Well, good. He's your boss. Like, buy in, dude. And if you can't, like, you're in the wrong spot. Move on. So that's how I view the relationship, and I've always had great relationships with those folks. And to me, it's pretty simple. Like, they're the vision for the department. I'm the vision for the program, and my vision better aligned to theirs. And if not, the issue is me, not them, because they're the boss. So just a little different framework. I think as a head football coach, we're all leaders and we're all alphas and we're all strong people. And because of that, we tend to want to do it our way all the time. And, we're in the end, we're a cog in the wheel that's serving this greater purpose. And we can do a lot of cool things that we like doing within the vision of, what the building's vision is or what the athletic department's vision is, and still accomplish great things. So.
Okay. Well, coach, let me do this real quick. Do my little end spiel. Just sit right there, and then, like I said, I'll wrap up with you after I do this. Coaches, give Coach a follow on the Twitter, X, whatever it's called today. I mean, by the time this comes out, it could change names again. Like, you never know. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. His other videos you can easily find by looking up him and my channel. Coach is easy to get a hold of. Coach will help you if you reach out to him. He's good people, as long as they're not in season, which, again, I don't know when this is coming out off the top of my head. So if we are in season, wait till after season. And then check out our sponsor, CoachPad. Again, like, share, subscribe, and that's our episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.